Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Hello everyone and welcome to your English class. In our lesson today, we will continue with our first unit, which is titled, Did You Hurt Yourself? Our lesson today is the reading lesson in your books, page 10 and 11. All you need for the lesson today is your books, page 10 and 11, a sheet of paper and a pen to take down your notes. Let's get started with the homework from the conversation lesson. From the conversation lesson, we have heard or listened to two men who told us about their accidents. They were Jassim and Samir. Here, put yourself in their shoes. Imagine that you were Samir or Jassim. Describe what happened. Both of them had car accidents. If I were Jassim, I will say, my motorcycle skidded on a patch of oil on the road, and I crashed into a car. I was hurled, and I hit the windshield. I woke up in the hospital. I was scared to death. I broke both legs. Thankfully, there is enough room for all my friends to write their names on the cast. So, he described what happened, how he felt, and the result. And by the end, he reflected or he told about how he is feeling towards the accident. How about Samir? The other one is telling us, I was cycling in the park. I should have worn a helmet. This squirrel came out of nowhere. I swerved, lost my balance, and I hit a tree. I got off lightly, only a few bruises and a bump on my head. Notice what he have told us. He told us about the events, how he felt, and by the end, he's telling us here about the result. What happened? It ended up lightly, only a few bruises. Okay. For our lesson today, by the end of today's lesson, you will be able to read short stories, you will be able to use some new vocabulary, and answer some questions on the reading text. So it's all going to be about stories. Let's get started in here. Now in your books, page 10 and 11, the reading lesson. What is the title? You can find it at the beginning of the reading, page 10. The big title. It's actually about unusual accidents and deaths. So we're having accidents, some of them ended by death. However, these are not usual ones. We're going to listen to unusual ones. What are the subtitles? So we will have two groups of stories. They are actually unhappy endings and also happy endings. Some of them ended tragically and others, they ended up happily. How about the pictures? Let's look at the pictures. What do we have? The first picture shows us an eagle in here, and it's actually dropping a turtle, little turtle, a tortoise. And the other one, a man who is freed, he is skydiving. He jumped out of the airplane, so he's going to be caught by a parachute. How are these related to the accidents? We're getting to know. Before we start, I want you to come up with what do you think the stories are going to be about. Let's make guesses and come up with our stories about these pictures. The first one here, we will describe it. It's actually an eagle and dropping a tortoise. Can you imagine or come up with your own story? It must be about an accident, I will say. Maybe they are telling us here about the story of this little turtle and how it was killed, how it might survive. It fell down when after the eagle caught it and it survived. The other picture in here, we're having two cars in the race track. They are challenging. One of them is going to win. Let's imagine the story, the accident story. Maybe someone was trying to cross or was cheering one of the audience and one of the cars hit him or her. Or it could be a car crash, two cars crashed each other. Okay, now let's go to the introduction part. Now I want you to listen to the introduction and come up with the answer for this question. What is the reading going to be about? From the 2-3 lines in here in the introduction, it will tell you about about the main idea of the reading for today. Listen and tell what is the reading going to be about.
Unusual accidents and deaths. Many people are interested in stories of unusual accidents. Some of these stories have happy endings, but some, unfortunately, have unhappy ones.
So, what do you think the reading going to be about? It will be divided, as you can see in your books, into 2 parts: stories with happy endings and stories with unhappy endings. So, unusual accidents with happy and unhappy endings. Let's go to the first part, which is the unhappy ones. You will listen now for details. You will listen to the text here, to the story, and you will come up with the answer for how did Aeschylus die? How did he die? And also, why? Why this action happened? Let's listen and come up with the answers.
Unhappy endings. According to the legend, the ancient Greek playwright Aeschylus was killed when an eagle dropped a tortoise on his head. The bird was trying to break the tortoise's shell on a rock in order to eat it. Aeschylus was bald, and the eagle thought the unfortunate man's head was a good rock on which it could break the shell.
So we're having in here, how did he die? He died actually, an eagle dropped a tortoise on his head. He was a bald man, so the turtle fell onto his head and he was killed. Why it was dropped on his head? Because the Aeschylus was bald and the eagle thought that his head was a good rock that could break the shell. So we're having the action, he was bald. Then we're having a turtle with an eagle, dropped it on his head, thinking that his head is a rock, then he died. So a tragic ending. How about the second story? Here, where did the story take place? Where? You're looking for a place. Did anyone try to stop the ostrich? So, where? And you will come up with the yes-no answer. Let's listen.
An 8-foot-tall ostrich was seen weaving through heavy traffic on a Saudi Arabian highway, near Aba. One of the drivers filmed the scene and uploaded it on the internet. No one tried to stop and catch the 180-kilogram bird that was taller than humans and ran at almost 70 kilometers per hour. It had probably escaped from a farm and ran into heavy traffic instead of the wild.
So, where did the story take place? Where is for a place. It took place actually in Abha, Saudi Arabia. What happened? Did anyone try to stop the ostrich? No, no one, because it was taller than humans and ran almost 70 kilometers per hour. So here we're having an ostrich, which is the big bird. It ran or escaped out of the farm. Then it was trying to weave through. What is weaving through? To run through the cars in a highway, trying to run away and escape. Did anyone try to stop it? No. Everyone was afraid. They only used their phones to videotape the scene and upload it to the internet, and it went viral. Let's go ahead in here. And another story in here. When did the story take place? When? For the time. How was the man killed? Let's listen and come up with the answers.
Some people worry about being hit from things falling from outer space. There is only one person in all recorded history who has been killed by a meteorite, Manfredo Setala. The tragedy happened in 1680.
Okay, so when did the story take place? Taking place, it could be the place or the time. However, we have when, so we will answer for the time. So it took place in the 1680s. In the 1680s. How was the man killed? Here, the man was killed. He was hit by a meteorite. What is a meteorite? It is any object that will come from outer space. It could be a star or anything. So, in the recorded history, no one have ever reported that he or she was hit by anything from space, unless for this story which happened in the 1680s. So no one needs to worry about being hit by anything from space. Next, here, Ahmed Ali. What happened? How old was Ahmed Ali's son? So we need here a number, someone's age. How did the little boy die? Describe the events. Let's listen and you will tell.
Ahmad Ali lost his 8-year-old son in a drowning accident at a friend's house. His son had been invited to join other children at a friend's house to play and swim in the pool. According to the invitation, a lifeguard was going to be present. The young boy was really excited and begged his father to let him go. So, Ahmad Ali picked him up from school and drove him to his friend's house before 1 p.m. That was the last time he saw him alive.
So, how old was Ahmed Ali's son when he died? He was actually 8 years old. The 8-year-old son, his 8-year-old son. How did he die, the little boy? Actually, he drowned in the swimming pool. Ahmed Ali took his son to a friend's house because there was a pool party. All the kids are going to swim. However, he dropped him there early before the lifeguard, someone who is going to put an eye on the kids while they are sleeping, while they are swimming. However, he was very early before the lifeguard, so his son died because no one helped him when he drowned. Okay, now let's go to the happy ones. Now we're going to listen to fun stories. These will never end with death. So the first one, what happened to the soldier when the engine stopped? Did he fall off? Yes or no? Let's listen to the story.
Happy endings. A German soldier was riding in the back seat of a World War I plane when the engine stalled as a result of an unusual gust of wind. He fell out of his seat while the plane was high above the ground. As he was falling, the plane's engine started again, and he landed back in his own seat. The pilot was then able to land the plane safely.
Okay, so what happened to the soldier when the engine stalled? What do we mean by stalled? It stopped. So it was on, then it stopped, and what happened to him? He fell out of his seat. He left his seat and he was on air, falling. Did he fall off at the end? Hit the ground face? No, he landed back in his own seat. So we're having the plane was on or moving, then it stalled because of a gust of wind, maybe because of any reason, it stalled, stopped working. So he fell off the plane. Happily or thankfully, the airplane worked back again and he sat down in his own seat. Okay, lucky soldier. Let's go ahead and listen to the following about Bob Hale. What happened when Bob jumped out of the airplane? And did he get hurt? Did he hurt himself? Let's listen to the story.
Bob Hale jumped out of an airplane in November 1972, but his main parachute failed to open. His backup parachute also failed. Bob dropped about 3,000 feet, 900 meters, at 80 miles, 128 kilometers, per hour and hit the ground face first. After a moment, he got up and walked away with only minor injuries. It was an amazing escape.
So what happened when Bob Hale jumped out of the airplane? The plan was about that he's going to jump, then he will pull out the parachute, it will open, then it will carry him. However, when he jumped out of the airplane, the main parachute and the backup parachutes failed to open. So we're having two parachutes. The main, it didn't open. Then he tried the backup parachute, the second one, it didn't open as well. What happened as a result? He fell out on the ground and he hit his face on the ground. Did he hurt himself? Luckily that no, although he hit the ground face first, he got up and walked away with only minor injuries. So he didn't hit himself. He just hit the ground face, then minor injuries. It could be a bruise or a cut, something that he he didn't even need to go to the hospital because of them. Everyone would think that he might break a bone. Next, let's go to Phil Matina. What happened to Phil Matina? And did he get hurt? Did he hurt himself? Let's listen to the story.
In September 2007, Phil LaMattina escaped death when he was driving at over 300 miles (500 kilometers) per hour in a drag race in Brisbane, Australia. Phil was racing down the track when his car became airborne, split in two, and burst into a fireball. He was knocked out, but he survived. Although he was in the midst of the ball of fire, Phil was burned only on the tip of his finger. When his brothers later showed him the video of the accident, Phil couldn't believe he was watching himself, and that he had such a lucky escape.
So, what happened to Phil Matina, the Australian man in here? He was racing down the track when his car became airborne. It exploded into fire, split in two. We're having two parts, and burst into a fireball. So we're having an explosion. He was hurled out of the car, thrown out of the car. What happened to him? Did he get hurt? Actually, he was knocked out, hurled out of the car, but only burned the tips of his finger. We had a big fire on explosion. He only burned the tips of his fingers. So it was a lucky escape, and when his brothers showed him the pictures for his accident, he didn't believe that he was the one who was in the midst of the fire. The last story that we got here, we have Phineas P. Gage. What happened to Phineas P. Gage? Did he get hurt, he himself? Let's listen to the story.
Railroad worker Phineas P. Gage was working with some dynamite when it exploded unexpectedly. A bar that was 3 feet, 1 meter, long, and that weighed 13 pounds, 6 kilograms, went clear through his head. He remained conscious, but was unable to see out of his left eye. After a while, his sight returned, and he fully recovered.
So, what happened to Phineas P. Gage? He is actually working with dynamite explosions. What happened? He was working with some dynamite when it exploded, and the bar went clear through his head. Let's look at the picture. Here, through his head, from his eye out of his head. This is what happened to him. He didn't lose conscious, he was conscious, and he felt everything. He didn't even lose conscious. Then, did he get hurt? Actually, he remained conscious, but unable to see out of his left eye, only one of his eyes. Then, luckily, his sight returned and he fully recovered. So at the beginning, he lost his sight on his left eye. However, after years or maybe after months, he fully recovered and became healthy, and he could see with his left eye back again. So it was a lucky escape. Now let's go to your books on page 11. The after reading exercise, match the words with the meaning. So we're having here the vocab and the meaning. Take a minute to read the second part from A to F so you can get the meaning. At the beginning we said bald. Bald, notice we're pronouncing it as O sound, however it is written as A. Aeschylus was a bald man. What do we mean by bald? Bald, it means someone who's having no hair on his head. Bald, no hair. Next, to challenge. Look at these people. They are in a race and they are challenging each other. One is going to win. To challenge is to contest or fight against. So maybe we're having two. We're having more than all of them are challenging each other, and one is going to win in a game or a race. To weave through. Look at this car, and if you still remember the ostrich, the ostrich story, it was weaving through. Weaving through is to actually is to move through something by turning and avoiding. If you are going right then left, trying to avoid to be hit by something, it is weaving through. Next, to hurl. He was hurled. To hurl is to throw with great force. So you're not going only throw with force. The tennis, the baseball is being hurled. It's not only thrown with force, strong force. To burst, it is an idea of to having an explosion, to explode. The verb is to explode. Phineas Gage recovered. He fully recovered and got his sight back. To recover is actually to get better. Someone is sick, then he will get better. He recovered. The idea of recovery. Then the following, exercise B, complete the sentences about the reading based on your understanding. The eagle dropped the tortoise on Aeschylus' head. And so, what happened as a result? And so, Aeschylus was killed. He was hit, then he was killed. The ostrich in the traffic had probably, maybe, escaped from where? It could be from a farm. Ahmed Ali agreed to take his son to a friend's house. He said, yes, no problem, just go to the pool party, because many children were invited and a lifeguard was going to be present. So we can't blame Ahmed Ali. Although Bob Hale had a backup parachute when he is flying from the airplane, however, it didn't open. The main parachute, neither the backup parachute opened. When Phil saw the picture of himself on the video, which is the racing cars, he couldn't believe that he was watching himself because he only burned his fingertips. It was a lucky escape. Now, which story is the oldest amongst these eight stories? Which one is the oldest? It is the story which is about Aeschylus and the eagle, his death. Which one we're having an animal involved? Animals, the ostrich in Abha. Someone who survived an explosion. We're having burst. So he was Phineas P. Gage, the last story, the dynamite. Which one occurs in a drag race? We're having racing cars. Phil Lamatina. Which one took place on air, not on land? It was actually the German soldier and Bob Hale, which is the parachute story, and the German soldier who fell out of the airplane. Which one is a drowning accident? It is the unhappy ending of Ahmed Ali's son who drowned in the swimming pool. Okay, how about the discussion? Question number 3 in the discussion. Do you know anyone who avoided a bad accident? You can tell about an accident that you have been through, something that a family member that you know. I know someone who survived a very bad car accident. And you will tell about, just like Jassim and Samir when they told us about what happened in the story. Why do you think people are so interested in stories about people's disasters? When some people, when they are reading about tragic stories, they feel like that it is interesting. Why do you think so? Maybe they are enjoying the idea of storytelling, listening to stories. They are taking moral lessons, learning things from them. How about number 5? Why do you think people risk their lives in dangerous sports like the drag racing, Formula 1 racing, and skydiving, and so on? These sports are very dangerous, and we all agree. However, people enjoy doing them. Why do you think so? Because they like to try new things. They want new experiences to tell others about it. You can think about anything. If you like any one of these, you can tell why do you like them. For your homework, I wanted to choose one of these stories that we have mentioned, the 8 stories, and write a report on it. What do you mean by a report? You write about what happened, when did it happen, and who was involved. You can write it in 2-3 sentences based on what you got from the story. Who, when it happened, and just summarize the story itself. Okay, I guess that is it for the lesson today, and thank you so much for your time.